Hey, what's going on? Steven here, back with another video on all new electric skateboard releases. I've been tracking all new electric skateboards that have been released or announced in the year 2024 so far. These electric skateboards are not sorted in any particular order. Also, links are provided down below if you want to check them out. Did I get them all? Have I missed any? Thanks, and let me know. First up, we have the Meepo MLR MONSOON Legacy RACEBOARD. This is one of the race boards that the racers on the Meepo team actually used to win a couple of races. What's really cool about this board is that it makes the Stooge 3 link truck style raceboard more accessible than ever. A Stooge SRB V5 raceboard is roughly $4,100 without a battery pack, and requires mid to high levels of DIY. I've always wanted this type of board, but I don't want the DIY aspect of it, and also don't want to drop roughly $5,000 plus a battery pack for something that's so niche. Meepo is collaborating with the Stooge board to make this type of board highly accessible in both price and also without the need to DIY most of the board. This board comes in a 16 2P configuration with 518 watt hours capacity and 3,500 watt dual motors. Also, it comes with a signature 3-link truck from Stooge boards, and also comes with 160mm hot melt tires. Personally, I've never tried these, but supposedly you get them hot enough, they stick to the ground really well. The board looks incredibly sick. I pre-ordered this with my own money, and I'm probably going to race this at EskateCon in 2025. Next up, we have Metroboard Phoenix. Metroboard is in a class of its own with its outstanding build quality and higher than production board specs. It's pretty much a boutique brand. It does seem like that is still the case here. The Phoenix stands out like a camel, quite literally, with a battery hump on its back. It's not a removable battery pack, it's just a hump. So it takes a while to get used to looking at it. Some people like it, and most people don't like it. The deck is full carbon fiber, the battery is 16S4P of model cell P42A cells. It uses CNC 6061 aluminum as trucks. The motors are pretty standard as 6374 motors, and the board comes with an automatic belt tensioning system. That makes tensioning the belt a little bit easier for you. The board weighs 44 pounds and has a top speed of 40 miles per hour. I think it will run you roughly $2,800, which is pretty expensive. But you're getting quality material, and again, this is a boutique board that's put together manually, so it's going to be a little bit expensive. Next up, we have Radium Mach 1. What's really special about the Radium Mach 1 is the RTS, the Radium Torque Steering. Basically, you have the ESC that independently controls each motor to provide power-assisted steering and increase traction. Basically, when you make turns, the outside will spin slightly faster than the inside because of that distance to give you maximum amount of traction. From what I've heard, people who tried it is really impressed with this system. It's pretty wild, and also the price is wild too, starting at $3,300 with a roughly 1,000 watt hour battery capacity at 12S6P with model cell P42A batteries. I was going to pre-order this board, but last minute held back due to the price and the form factor. Let me explain. $3,300 is a lot of money for a street board. For $3,300, I'd rather get a Lawrence Major V2. I'm not the best street board rider, so if you give me like a $3,300 board, it's just not going to get used much, and then the road conditions near where I live is really bad, so I'm just not going to be like the perfect person for this type of board, and I'd rather spend it on an AT board that I always wanted, that has a lot of really good specs at the same price. I do hope that one day I do get to, try it out and make a review for it, but I just can't. If I'm spending my own money right now, $3,300, I just can't justify that. Next, we have the Cavity CS2 Direct Drive. This is a direct drive only brand. It uses 14S4P, 21700 Samsung 50S cells. The ESC it uses is 90A programmable, and also uses dual 3500 watt motors. What they claim to be special is that their ESCs are programmable, so you can upgrade the drivetrains in the future. This company is also located in Germany. Personally, I'm not too excited about this board. I think they're overcharging a lot. And also, Very unfortunate naming. In the United States, cavity usually means that there's a hole in your mouth or the hole in your butt. So there's no way I'm rolling up to my friends and say like, hey, you want to check out my cavity board? It just doesn't work. Next up, we have Mooney Eskate. So this brand does not have any boards in production yet, but they did show up in EskateCon, and they have a lot of really good looking prototypes that I really want to get on someday and review. So I'm watching this brand with great interest, and hopefully one day they will be able to produce something as cool as what they showed off at EskateCon. Next, we have SUPERBEAST 2024. So SUPERBEAST board. It's a 12S 4P monocell P42A board. It starts with 724 watt hours, goes to a top speed of 40 miles per hour. What's really special about this board is that it uses the Vega X. It comes pre-installed, which is part of the reason why it's so expensive. It has its own proprietary gear drive system. I've never seen what the inside looks like, so I can't comment too much about its gear drive system. But what I do know is that this board falls on the more expensive side. For the same specs as compared to a manufactured board, it's probably going to be $1,000 more, but it does look really clean and really slick, and I hope I get to review it someday. The next board is the Meepo VADER Hurricane Pro all-wheel drive with the Surge battery pack. So this is a board that Meepo quietly announced last year and launched this year. It has a 12S 4P battery pack with a new carbon fiber deck to accommodate for the Surge battery pack. It uses 4 X3500 watt motors and also has a brand new remote, and of course has a new Surge battery pack right on top of it. I've not seen anybody review this board, so I don't know the status of it or whether if it's good to recommend it or not, just because there's so little information about it right now. Next board, we have the Propel Ruckus. What makes this board special is its dampening truck system. That is the key selling point. What they claim is that it's able to dampen the left and right motions of the board, so it potentially could stop a wobble from happening and throwing the rider off. It also uses a spring bushing system. The price is about $1,500. Personally, I think this is one of the most interesting boards of the year with this adjustable damping system that can prevent wobbles from happening. I got this on order and will be reviewing it soon. It has an 864 watt hour pack battery with 12S 4P Samsung 50S cells, and they claim that it's going to be smooth with customizable FOC 3.0. It also has a color screen remote and adjustable settings, which is pretty cool, and you can do that on your remote instead of downloading some weird app to do it. It also has a flexible BVR deck that does also look really good for carving, so I'm super excited about that as well. Anyway, I'm quite excited to get my hands on it, and unlike other reviews, I'm not sponsored in this review. I purchased this with my own money, so I can be more direct and that I don't have to follow in marketing guidelines when talking about this board. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch the review when it comes out. Next board we have is the Meepo VADER HurricaneCarbon Limited Edition. This has the same exact specs as the Meepo Hurricane VADER, but it is all in silver. Honestly, I think it looks pretty damn cool. Even the gear drive now is silver, so it looks pretty cool. Just the physical paint that is different, everything else is the same. Next, we have the Meepo Hurricane Bamboo series. This is a new Hurricane Bamboo that is slightly cheaper than the current version of the Meepo Bamboo. I call this the Meepo Bamboo Lite, right? It has smaller battery at 544 watt hours, it has the same motors, which is the key point. It is still pretty strong, and it has the new M8S remote. Also, what's different about this is that it uses rubber airless tires instead of pneumatic wheels, and it's not flexible due to hard metal enclosure. It's pretty much a cheaper Bamboo, but more powerful than the City Rider 3. Personally, I don't like what this new Bamboo looks like. It looks cheaper, less aggressive than the Meepo City Rider 3. Let me know what you think. Next up, we have the Backfire Ranger X5. This is essentially exactly the same as the Backfire Ranger X3, but it has red LEDs and some different grip tape. That's really about it, but it has a lot of accessories like mud guards and spoilers that you can put on this board to make it look really cool. And plus, it comes with a premium grade color LED remote. The board itself is somewhat flexible, but it doesn't have the torque to quickly accelerate up to a high speed. But you can still get up to high speed, but it just won't have the torque as you would expect from a belt drive board because it is using hub motors. The benefit of hub motors is that it's quiet and requires way less maintenance than belt drive motors. And what makes the Backfire Ranger special is the red LEDs that looks absolutely diabolical at night when you're riding this thing. The next skateboard is Acedeck Nyx Z3 and the Z3 Elite. They both use Samsung 50E and P42A cells, and now the Samsung 50S cell as well. You can actually custom order these with different types of cells. The one that I have is 50E, and I found it to be plenty powerful. What makes the Z3 special are the shock absorbing trucks. And they come with premium high-powered full metal LED lights that is super bright at 1100 lumens. I have the Elite and I think it's super fantastic. It's definitely ranked as one of my top 3 boards of the year. It pretty much feels like riding on a cloud with these awesome shocks. Next up, we have the Acedeck Nyx Z1 Offroad. This is pretty much exactly the same as the Nyx Z3, except it doesn't have the independent shock system. It has a standard channel truck system. And personally, the Z1 Offroad is amazing as well because it is super responsive without the shocks. The board is just super nimble on the road, and it still could handle quite a bit of off-road as well. So if you want something powerful, stable, and also kind of in touch with the road and responsive, the Z1 Offroad is for you. Next up, we have the Acedeck Nomad N3. This board sports a 145 amp ESC, has a top speed of 37 miles per hour more, and it's CNC'd everything with 7075 aluminum, and has a range of 90 kilometers with roughly 1500 watt-hour battery pack. It's absolutely bonkers and filled with specs on this board, and the acceleration is absolutely insane as well. Everything is just insane about this board. Even the price, I think for what it packs into the board, it's extremely worth it at the price that they're charging. Next, we have the B1 Titan Bamboo electric skateboard. So what's special about this board is that you can actually mount a secondary battery pack on top of the board, so that if you run out of power, you can click a button and it will switch from using the battery in the board to the battery pack on top, which I think it's pretty cool. But I think the battery pack looks like a briefcase and it just looks out of place and kind of ugly. I wish the execution is a little bit more smooth, but aside from that, it also has OLED LEDs, and it does seem to be extremely powerful and looks really good for the price that it is charging. Next up, we have the B1 Manba electric skateboard. It's pretty much a boosted board with AT wheels, but it is much stronger than a boosted board. With dual 1700 watt motors, it's only $599. So personally, I think this is a pretty good buy if you're into boosted style boards but wanted that AT wheels and also really strong motors for a really cheap price. And I think for $599, it's absolutely a steal. Next up, we have the B1 Falcon electric skateboard. It's basically the same as the B1 Manba, except this time it's using hub motors and it's really cheap at $350. Next, we have the Maxfind Max 6. This board looks pretty good in terms of design. It looks like an updated, more modern design of all the Maxfind boards, and has a top speed of 26 miles per hour, 31 miles range, 30% hill climbing, and even has a little bit of RGB attached into, kind of embedded into the bottom of the skateboard. Has smart app control, and starting at only $569, which is a pretty good price. I do find the Maxfind electric skateboard to have these unique designs that's really pleasing. They do claim that their board is flexible with their composite X material, but the last time I tried their board, I don't find it to be super flexible, at least not as flexible and useful as what maple decks feel like. I would probably just consider it as a non-flexible deck because it doesn't really flex as what they're claiming it to be. However, the Max 6 is one of their only belt drive motors, and I think they're moving on to the right directions because belt drives do offer stronger acceleration and more higher top speed. So I definitely would be interested to review this board as an entry-level electric skateboard in the future. Next, we have the Tynee Stinger, the new 2024 edition. This edition has a little bit more battery and comes with boosted wheel clones. It has Hobbywing ESC at 80 amps, uses the 12S 3P battery. You can change the ride quality and performance in the app, and this type of surf deck is so much fun and has a lot of power packed into this board. So I definitely think it's one of the, I definitely do think this is one of the better surf style boards that you can buy in 2024. Next up, we have Linky Innovation foldable boards. The first wave is already sold out and they came around $1,000, but the V2, the second version, is coming in at $600 US and is currently on Kickstarters. The previous specs, the board weighs about 11 pounds, has a range of 11 miles, and goes up to 18 miles per hour. It does look like it has a potential to compete with the Exway Ripple. So definitely something that I'm keeping my eyes on to see if I can review this in the future. The next board is the Veymax Anchoret. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but this is Veymax brand's electric longboard. It actually uses a battery configuration of 14S 3P, goes to a top speed of 34 miles per hour, and has a range of 29 miles. Uses Hobbywing 3.0 ESC. It looks a little bit generic and is not flexible, but the specs are not too bad for $1,000. Next up, we have Kyndboard. These people make really great decks, and they put these decks together with other brands to make a full board. Below is actually the Amboard's website that features built electric skateboards with the Kyndboard decks. Next up, we have Meepo V3S ER. The V3S ER is exactly the same as the standard V3S, except it has a little bit more range and has donut wheels. Everything else is the same. Next up, we have ONSRA Velar Gear drive. This has been announced last year, but they ran out of stock, and they're back in stock again. So basically, for $300 more, you can buy the gear drive version of the ONSRA Velar. It's the same specs as the ONSRA Velar, it's just a little bit more expensive to get the gear drive. Next up, we have the Exway Paragon electric skateboard. It is the first electric skateboard with rainbow RGB LED deck, and it also looks to be quite flexible too, and it comes with a premium Rexus remote. For $1,500, you're getting a 504 watt-hour battery pack and also motors with 3058 watt peak power. This does seem to be a little bit overpriced for the specs that you buy with $1,500. If you do want LEDs, you can DIY for $15, like what I did with my boards, and save yourself a lot of money. Next up, we have the Vortex boards. Vortex boards do look like a copy of the Miles Panther board, and it's pretty expensive at $1,500, but I'll leave you to read about it in the links, and it's also based in Australia. Next, we have the Hoyt Cascade. The Hoyt Cascade goes up to 44 miles per hour, has a 40 to 60 mile range depending on your wheels, and it uses P42A 16S 6P battery system. So it does look like quite a beast of a board, but it's pretty expensive as well. Next, we have Tynee Ultra Pro X. This board uses a 14S 2P monocell P42A system with 423 watt-hours of battery, and it uses dual Hobbywing BLDC motors at 3000 watts. It is basically one of the best and fastest cheap mid-range boards that you can get out there, and the direct competitor to this should be the Meepo Voyager X. Personally, I like the Tynee Ultra Pro X better because it's powered by Hobbywing, which is much smoother than Meepo's Linky ESCs. Next up, we have OMW's Hussar. The Hussar board is using Samsung's 50S cells at 12S 3P configuration with a battery capacity of 648 watt hours. It's pretty flexible and it's pretty good specs for a $900 board, and it's possibly the best specs on this board in the $900 range. I have one of these boards on order and we'll review it in upcoming weeks. Also, this board has integrated front and rear lights plus integrated LED system that looks incredibly good, and it does look like so far that the wheels are exchangeable with its bigger cousin, which is the OMW Cavalry. Next board we have is Outdoor Masters Caribou. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but it has a 346 watt hour battery and also two 1000 watt hot motor battery. For the specs that you're getting for this board is not so great, but it does look to be in a new deck shape and form factor that I've not seen before. So hopefully we'll see some better and stronger iterations in the future for this board. Next, we have the Verreal RS Ultra. This has just been announced on Instagram. It packs two 6374 brushless beast motors and also uses a 60 amp FOC ESC, and it uses a 12S 4P monocell P42A battery system at 725 watt hours. The next one is also announced on Instagram. It is the Wowgo X5. Other than that, it uses glowing yellow LEDs. I don't really know too much about this board. It does seem like Wowgo just slapped on some LEDs onto their mid-range boards, but we'll have to see about that. Next we have is the Meepo Voyager XL. The Meepo Voyager XL uses a gear drive system instead of belt drive and has an LED system surrounding the entire board, which is pretty nice, which is pretty cool. I do have the original Meepo Voyager and I'm planning on getting the Meepo Voyager XL and do some side-by-side comparisons to see if it's worth it. Next up, we have the Propel X4R. This is also announced on Instagram, but not launched anywhere else. This is a true monster that's coming up with 1554 watt hours of continuous discharge with Samsung 50S cells at a 12S 7P configuration. It is an all-wheel drive. It uses 110 amps FOC control, so it's basically dual 55 amps on each side of the board. Has a color screen remote and updated modernized lower profile independent suspension design. Basically, the Propel X4R is the new flagship for Propel and it does look incredibly nice. Next up, we have Maxfind FF Pro. This is using a 12S 3P Samsung 29E cells. This is using a 12S 3P battery configuration and has dual 1000 watt hot motors. It's a hot motor board. Yeah, but it's not bad for $799. Next up, we have the Propel Endeavor 3S. The Propel Endeavor 3S is probably the cheapest independent suspension electric skateboard that you can buy. If you really want to go off-road, this is probably the cheapest true off-road electric skateboard that you can buy. Check out its specs in the links. The Anchoret Endurance 2.0. This is announced at eSkateCon with a lot of upgrades coming, and it's going to be a monster of a board and is kind of scheduled for release in June 2024. I'm going to leave you the links to the original Endurance electric skateboard. They're just going to update that page, so check them out in June to see what the true specs are. From what I've heard and people who have tested this board at eSkateCon, they all say this is a monster that you should probably wait for. The next one is from EcoMobile. For some reason on EcoMobile, they were pushing quite hard this thing, which is an electric trike cargo bike. I just think it's really funny that EcoMobile is pivoting pretty hard into this area and trying to sell this to electric skateboarders. Let me know if you're interested in this. Oh, there's also an honorable mention for propulsion boards on the Demon 3.0. This is released in 2023, but somehow I missed it in my 2023 video, so make sure you check it out. It has a top speed of 34 miles per hour, range of 30 miles, and motor power of 7,000 watts. This came out in 2023. Somehow I missed it. I'm gonna put this And also, if you missed my video on all the electric skateboards that came out in 2023, make sure you follow the links down below to check them out. I do have another 2024 all-electric skateboards video coming up towards the end of the year where I sum up all of the releases. There are a lot more electric skateboards that companies haven't announced yet but are heavily rumored and hinted, but I cannot put in this video because I'm under NDA to not talk about them. So if you're interested in what other electric skateboards are going to be released for the second half of 2024, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell for more content. Thank you so much and have a good one.